You look around at this group of people that used to support you and always be there for you, and suddenly they seem to have all turned against you, and you don't know what happened or how it got to this. Hi there, guys. Dr. Megan Connell, and this is Psychology at the Table. In this episode, I'm very excited to be joined by Dr. Emory Daniel, who is here to talk to us about community building and building a supportive community, specifically on Twitch.
Yes.
Awesome. So welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
This is awesome to have you here. So tell me a little bit about your research and what you've been doing and what you've been learning.
So my research specifically deals with what are called parasocial interactions and relationships. They're usually one-way communication streams. So an audience member would feel like they are interacting with somebody based on the fact that they're watching someone on television. So somebody who would be watching this stream and wouldn't actually be communicating with us would still feel like there is an interaction, and thus not reciprocity, but the repetition of continued watching would be something where people would feel like that's an actual relationship. Now, we're starting to get into a little bit more of a communal aspect, and this is where I wanted to talk about today. Now we've got these audience members that can not only speak through chats and social media and so forth, but the people who are on stream are watching these chats live and communicating as well. So it's actually becoming social interaction, which is something our research field hasn't seen. And we're very excited to be researching it and talking to streamers and getting their opinions on things. So that's
sort of in a nutshell the stuff that you're looking at.
That's my little elevator pitch, if you will.
So when we're looking at streams and specifically looking at trying to build like a healthy streaming community and keeping things positive and stuff, what have been some trends that you've seen or things that you've learned? So
there's a couple of areas that this can fall under. First is through the technology itself. So for Twitch, and if you've started a Twitch channel, you may already know this, is you can set certain restrictions.
Right.
So, you can have a moderator look at certain things and say, this kind of language is unacceptable. We don't want that in here. You can have bots to look in and filter out certain messages. So if something makes you uncomfortable, those particular words can be cut out in this case. So there's a lot with the technology itself, but in terms of building, fostering, and continuing a healthy community, I've heard a lot of varying perspectives of it. And, a lot of this, they all come down to be yourself.
Yeah.
In terms of you're the one they're watching, you're the one that they continue to want to watch. And they like to foster this community with that specific person or the specific game that they're watching. So they find you entertaining. Other things I've heard are, keeping a consistent schedule. So if you film Monday, Wednesday, Friday, keep doing Monday, Wednesday, Friday as much as you can. But it does go into the harboring of the certain communication that you have with your bases. So, there's a certain style that one has. And usually the good thing within communities, at least, is the more you kind of explain those rules without being too forceful or restrictive, the more the community works within itself to blockade any dissenting messages and so forth.
So it's like we create our own norms by, so not like putting the band hammer down all the time, but it might be a thing of like, hey guys, remember, be respectful. And then the more we remind the people of that, the more the community itself will start self-regulating. And
that's the biggest thing about it is two things. First, with GDQ, for instance, on the Twitch stream, they had a lot of homophobic and transphobic language that was going on. Well, the bots and the moderators were taking care of that. Well, that actually backfired a lot for them. Yeah, so there was a small little campaign called Release the Plebes, as they were calling themselves. The community actually band together as a resistance towards this filtering of their language, which caused a lot of uprising, and a lot of people were really upset about that. Whereas, if you have what's called groupthink, which normally isn't a very positive term, but there is some good.
You can use some good to it.
You can absolutely use some good to it, and that pushing out the dissenters or largely ignoring those dissenters makes for a good thing to be able to do. So that's within your audience. The other thing is, and this has been the biggest trend that I've said, is don't overreact.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I've heard people talk about there's a troll in my chat room. They're using horrible language. There's a lot of toxicity, and I don't know what to do. And the PAX panels that I've been to, the people that have streamed, they said just don't overreact to them. Don't give them that opportunity for their moment in the spotlight, because
That's
as we well know, that's what trolls want.
Yeah, yeah.
Is they want that attention, and whether it's ignoring them or confronting them, once and then calling it a night, blocking them, or again letting the community take over a little bit can help in that case. But there is that essence of you've got to be in control a little bit.
Yeah, because it's your chat and your stream. And
exactly.
One thing I've seen lately is several people, specifically in the D&D community, who stream a lot, have gotten very burned out from streaming. So, and this may be a bit beyond the scope of your research, but I'm guessing with some of the people you've chatted with, you might hear a little bit about this, of the idea of the fans almost feeling like they own the content, or like because they're consuming it and they do have that interaction with the hosts and things, and like how to keep that boundary between like, no, this is mine, this is my content, but I still want to interact with, and to create those healthy boundaries. Like any guidance or anything that you found on that?
Yeah, that's so hard. One of the channels I frequent, her name is Super Butterbuns, and she was talking about how she just got so burnt out of the content that she was producing. Smooth McGroove had the same problem at one point. And there's this high demand, especially if you're producing good quality content that people want to watch, and they're trying to be supportive. The best thing I can say for that kind of thing is be upfront, be honest. So many people have done their reactionary videos to say, look, I gotta take a break.
Yeah.
And also controlling your content with your audience is, being able to say, you got to respect what I'm going through right now, because it's a difficult time for me for one reason or another. I'm focusing on my mental health. So, this is one thing we've seen a lot in terms of privacy issues with their streamer as well, which is really scary in some instances of almost knowing as much information as the streamer does in certain situations. And that's an area of research we're trying to get into. Not a lot's been done there too. And as you're talking about this, I'm thinking of actually a PAX talk I went to, which was how to network when we were very awkward. And one of the things that this bit of guidance that they gave was to always leave people wanting more. To not overstay your welcome, to leave people wanting more. And I wonder if, like, with streaming, that's maybe something for people to keep in mind, to like keep your audience wanting more. Yeah. Better to maybe stream only 2 days rather than 3, so you don't burn out, and they want to go, I wish you were on for 3 or something. Yeah, I mean, now that hurts a little bit with things like the YouTube algorithm, although they changed it a little bit, to where if you're only posting several times, you're going to get kind of swallowed up. Right. However, no, you want to make sure you're producing good quality content, and people can get aggravated very easily based on the perceived decline of the content. So, posting regularly is helpful, but the wanting to keep wanting more is very important. I think my favorite thing about that is to get a spotlight off yourself, and good community sharing are like Twitch raids. Yeah. And I heard that for the first time. This was last year. And I thought this was such an excellent idea, not only to share audiences, because the collaboration of streaming and YouTube is so important to the business model of things. But it also works with the community of your friends that aren't your audience members. Yeah. So you can push your audience to another streamer, and hopefully this would engage in reciprocity. Usually does. Yeah. Where when you're excited to do your stuff again, it'll come back to you as well. So keeping that wanting more is a good thing, but also doing a little bit of crowdsourcing and collective communities with other streamers also really helps.
That's really cool.
Yeah. The first time I heard that, I was like, that is one of the most interesting things.
Yeah, if you've ever read the book Blue Ocean Strategy for Businesses.
I haven't, no.
It's really, but it talks about that idea of like, rather than competing with other people, it's cooperating. It's understanding that there's plenty for all. There's plenty of audience out there. There's plenty of other content out there. There's plenty of people, ways to network. It's not like, it's not because this channel is succeeding, I'm going to fail. It's we can both succeed together.
And that's the wonderful thing about gaming. You can't tell you how many content creators, even if they didn't start their kind of business together, of streamers joining together, they still work with each other.
Yeah.
Even if they're in different organizations, they still do live streaming together. They still produce content together. And that's such a benefit.
Yeah.
And again, bringing so many different diverse audiences into having communities that you didn't expect to have either, which is pretty cool.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah.
If people want to find you, learn more about your research and stuff, how can people find you?
So my Twitter handle is at Fusrodoc, FUSRODOC. And that's one of the best ways to contact me. But I'm also available on my email, Daniel, ESDANIEL, ES at appstate.edu. So I'm at Appalachian State University. So,
and we'll put links for those down in the doobly-doo.
Yep.
To make sure that they can contact you.
Yep.
Thank you again so much for coming on.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This has been fun.
This is awesome. All right, thank you guys, and I hope this was helpful to you. And as always, let's make space at the table for everyone.